everyone. Welcome to the Baseball Brew Crew interview series. We are keeping baseball history alive, one craft beer at a time. Wherever you are watching us or listening to us, please give us a like and a follow. And if you love beer with your baseball, please tell a friend. Joining me is field correspondent and senior research analyst at the Baseball Brew Crew. It is Kevin Lyon. And our guest today is Major League pitching coach for the Oakland Athletics. It is Scott Emerson. Welcome to our show.
Well, thanks for having me.
So Scott and I actually go back to high school. Scott was 2 years younger than I was at Shadow Mountain High School. Do you remember those days, or do you even reflect back on those days? It's kind of incredible how far we've come since that time. Oh yeah, I mean, high school days, you go back and for me, that's one of the baseball moments and basketball moments. And just, my best friend, Rob Johnson's, from Shadow Mountain. So we go all the way back to remember all the times and tell all the stories. And I still keep in touch with some of my ex-teammates and some of my friends at Shadow. So, it's I think the baseball program for sure at Shadow Mountain at the time, we tried to build a very successful program under Coach Rich Chainhalt. And, when he left, it didn't work out so well, but we also had a Hall of Fame coach, William Hatcher, before him. And, Shadow Mountain was trying to build that great legacy of baseball. And we always had that slogan, we don't rebuild, we reload. And, a lot of my ex-teammates, we always took a lot of pride in the program. And, Shadow Mountain Matadors is, you grow up 4 years going to school there. You got something that sticks to you. Yeah. And when I was a senior, so it would have been, when I was a freshman, that would have been like 1985. In the senior class was Kurt Schilling. He was actually pitching. Did you have any, were you there at all? Are you probably going to middle school at that time?
Yeah, the correspondence I had with Kurt a little bit was, he'd work out at Shadow some in the off season, but,
right.
I was playing basketball and kind of by the time I got out there, he was leaving, but we played a catch a little bit, a couple times. I'm not sure he remembers, but, he was definitely somebody that, everybody at school was looking up to and, wanted to be him because he was out in the pro ranks fairly soon. And, it just kind of let everybody know somebody from Shadow Mountain has a chance to play professional baseball.
That's right. And I was fortunate enough to have one at bat off Kurt. And I famously talk about it because I weakly grounded out to second base, but I did make contact and he did not strike me out. So I said he actually threw one past me. It was one of those times in my life, even though he was still like kind of tuning up for spring ball. The velocity, I said, wow. And I said, he is not, wherever this pitch is, I'm going to swing at it because I am not going to get struck out. So it was a kind of a famous story I talk about, but I weakly grounded out to second. So it was kind of my major league moment against Kurt. But yeah, we were lucky being in Arizona because we had major leaguers that would come. Well, it was in winter ball, so it was like January, February, where they would come and work out with us in high school. And I remember Greg Sparks, Tom Pagnozzi. I remember being out there. He was the brother-in-law of a player that was my age. So we were always lucky in that respect to play baseball in Arizona.
Yeah, we had Dave Pavlis come out. I mean, Shadow Mountain kind of was the home to the pros, in my opinion. When I started playing pro ball, those same guys would go to Shadow Mountain. And then we had behind me Mark Kroon, who signed with the New York Mets from Shadow Mountain High School. He'd come out. It was a Rodney Sparks signed as well with the Kansas City Royals. So, that's three guys off our high school team in my 4 years there. Matt Evans would come out. That's another guy. And, we just, Coach Chainhalt would throw them BP about 1 o'clock. We'd play catch and we'd hang out and talk to the guys before we rolled out. But, it was always good times hanging out, at the field. And Coach Chenault always made it for us. If you come on this field, and you're wearing baseball pants, you better have a belt in there. You better not show skin. So, we had a lot of good rules that kind of led to some discipline.
Yes. Yes, I that's right. I do remember that because back then in the 80s, literally guys would cut off their shirts and they'd be like half shirts. And that was like a trend for a while. Yeah. And it was just because it was so hot. And but yeah, there was some discipline. He brought the basically the equipment. We upped our level. And I remember we were the baseball uniforms that we had were like hand-me-downs from like 10, 15 years ago. And he really brought that in, and that really kind of made a difference in our confidence. I thought, that we could play, and we weren't like a raggedy bunch of players and stuff like that. But
I mean, we had practice uniforms back then.
Right.
those were the hand-me-downs, right? The old Detroit Tiger script M per se. And, we went out, though, as a team, as an organization, and we raised a lot of money. We started putting those banners on the fence, and having practice hats, having practice uniforms, bags, jackets, and whatever. And, sometimes, I've learned this in order to be important, sometimes you need to look important. And, when you go into a room and you look important, you take the first advantage, I think.
Right. So you were actually drafted twice, as we were looking up in. So how did that all work out?
Well, out of high school, I got drafted by the San Diego Padres, and I remember Damon Oppenheimer was the area scout, who's now the director of scouting for the New York Yankees. He came and we talked about signing, but he told me this is what he said then. He told me that the club was in a sale, trying to sell the team, and the signing bonus wouldn't be very much. So I elected not to sign. And then during the summer that year, I hurt my elbow and went to Scottsdale Community College. I pitched my freshman year, probably not. My velocity was down because of my elbow. And so I went a few rounds later that year, and Logan White drafted me with the Orioles, and who since has been scouting director, assistant GM with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now he's a senior advisor with the San Diego Padres. We both knew I wasn't ready for professional baseball, but at the time they had the draft and follow where they could draft you and hold on to your rights and have you sign before the next year's draft. So, I knew I wasn't really ready with the elbow injury. I had to get my velocity back. And so they took me to hold on to my rights.
Yeah, because I was curious because I'm going, why did he get drafted a year later? Because it doesn't say why. And when I was just doing the research, I'm like, wow, this guy got drafted twice. And I'm like, and obviously Shadow Mountain has a legacy. I'm guessing starting with Schilling. I don't know if there was anybody before that. But obviously I could tell that Shadow Mountain was definitely a great program. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. But the way you were taught by your coaches in high school that you guys keep mentioning here, how did that influence your coaching style later on, Scott?
I mean, very much so. I mean, I had two, I guess, kind of maybe structured not disciplinarians, but two guys that loved the game of baseball, Rich Chenault at Shadow Mountain and Larry Smith at Scottsdale Community College. And one of my reasons why I wanted to go to junior college is to get drafted again. But also Larry Smith would coach professional baseball in the summer times. That was the times where college coaches could coach the college in the spring and then coach professional baseball in the summer. And Coach Smith had a background in pitching. He was Arizona State's pitching coach at one time. He was head coach at Duke and I believe Northwestern. And I know he coached at Indiana also. So, their team approach to winning always intrigued me. I never felt like I wanted to be per se the best player on the team. I just wanted to win, and I felt like I tried to do everything at all costs to win the games, whether I was being a good teammate when I was not playing. Because at Shadow Mountain, as much as my dad wanted me to play another position, we had other amazing players at Shadow Mountain that, I didn't really have an opportunity to play much in the field. First base, I had Matt Evans ahead of me for a couple of years who ended up going to Grand Canyon and playing in the minor leagues for the Detroit Tigers. So there wasn't really any spot there. And then we had, great outfielders, and I'm left-handed, so that's the only spots I'm going to go. So, I always wanted to be that good teammate on the bench. I didn't mind. It's just pitching, to be honest with you. I just wanted to pitch, be a part of the team, hit my fungos, and win ball games. So, trying to get people to understand the team concept that Shane Holt and Larry Smith brought, they played to win the game. And, some people got upset about playing time, but I think when you're playing sports, when you're trying out for teams, there's no guarantees. If you pay to play and you're on a rec league, everybody should be playing and we should be having fun, but there should be no guarantees of playing time in high school and college. Those are the pro ball. Those are things that are earned. And, I always respected those two coaches because they made you earn it. If you weren't working and you were the best player and you had some down times, you sat the bench until you figured it out. And, my coaching style is, I it might be a little different, but I tell guys, I don't work for you. You don't work for me. We work together to get you to be the best, player you could possibly be. And communication is important. If, sometimes good coaching is limited coaching and letting players self-organize and figure themselves out. And, if I don't know what their troubles and tribulations are and what they're going through, then I can't be effective. So that's where the communication comes in, because I think, hey, that, he's in a game, he's pitching, and, do I want to bother him or do I not want to bother him? So there's a lot of styles you gotta make or have with for me, 13 different pitchers and 13 different approaches. It's easier for me to make the adjustment to the players than the players to make an adjustment for me. So, I consider myself like a drop down in their toolbar is my style. And each guy has its own corporation, right? And now I'm working within that corporation to get him better. Everybody moves differently. Everybody's size is differently. Everybody's pitch arsenal is different. So, when it comes to that coaching style, you got to have multiple coaching styles, in my opinion, to be effective.
Yeah. And I remember it kind of creeping up on me pretty quickly, going from like little league and then all of a sudden you're in high school, and just that level of intensity and what they expect out of you was like, wow. It's like, it was overwhelming at first because, you can't goof around. It kind of went from a kid's game to very serious really quickly. And if you can't make that transition, I remember being a perfect example. I remember being like in the early days of tryouts and stuff like that for like freshman year. Like I remember that I in like little league, I could like throw like, really high and far, but it would always be very accurate. And the first day I did that on the playing field in high school, I heard about it. And, throwing that ball in a skip to the play, it's like you learn those things really quickly. And I think that good coaching also helps nurture that as well to get most, and but also ultimately playing time as well.
Yeah, the more you play the game, in my opinion, the better you get. The more pitchers like get off the mound and throw off the mound, the better they get. It's not, we're in this age of like velocity and the kids pitching all year long. But, for me, throwing the baseball is fine. You could throw the baseball year round. It's the competitive nature year round. I don't want guys competing and pitching year round, but I want guys to do what they do. And especially at the professional level, this is what they do for a living, is throw a baseball. So anytime and any chance they get to throw a baseball, to work on their craft, I love it. And, like you said, the coaching is, and the players, the recognizing of what you recognize that real early, that, hey, I got to keep it low. I got to throw it to the cutoff man, just throwing it as far as I can. Let's a batted runner maybe get an extra base.
Right.
So every year of baseball, you're gaining knowledge. And, every level you move up, you keep gaining knowledge. And, every level you move up, players are expected to do more at each level because, the game gets, faster at each level. So now all of a sudden, the higher you go, you got to be able to do certain things. So when you get to the big leagues, obviously the highest level of baseball, you got to be able to do those things correctly, and you got to be able to be sustainable at doing those things so you can stay around.
And how did your coaching career or your player career transition into your coaching career?
I got done playing in '98. I got released in spring training from, I guess that time was Kansas City. And I came home, and none of the pros were working out at Shadow Mountain anymore. They had a new coach. So I ended up being an associate scout for the Orioles, meaning, I was just kind of helping them find players. And then I was given lessons. And then for the beer people, I was bartending at Playa Bar on 32nd Street in Shea behind Uncle Sam's, which my sister was the manager. So I did that for a while. And then I actually helped out at Paradise Valley High School with Coach Moeller. And then in 2000, I got my first coaching gig with the Pirates in the minor leagues. So that's where I started. I'm fortunate that I started from the bottom, coaching ranks, and I ended up getting to the top. And there's not too many guys that can say they hit every level. And did the Arizona Fall League, did the Mexican Winter League, was a coordinator. So I mean, every professional job in the pitching market, I did.
Yeah, because that's why I was looking at going, wow, player who did, I think your highest level was AA when you were pitching. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. To make that transition. And then I was like, wow, that's quite an ascension. And that says something obviously about your ability to coach these kids,
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, each level brings a different thing into coaching as well. What are you trying to accomplish with a rookie league pitcher? What are you trying to accomplish with an A-ball pitcher, AA, AAA, big league pitcher? I think you got to look at the process of each player, how they can mature and grow. Everybody right out of the chute when they sign, they always say, oh, my scout tells me I'm going to be in AA next year. And me as a coach, I'm more worried about, hey, well, you need a better breaking ball before you need to start worrying about AA. Mm-hmm. So I think, some guys want to move too fast. And, if you move too fast sometimes and you're not ready for that level, they might not think you're good enough at all. And then now you don't even have a job. So for me, I always wished I probably got to AA as a player too soon. I wish they would have held me back. Now, in retrospect, if I would have stayed in A-ball one more year and learned my craft a little bit more where I could dominate a league. I never really dominated a league. I was just getting through the league. And if I could have stayed back one more year in A-ball and had an opportunity to dominate a league, I think it would have helped maybe my confidence. But I needed to command the ball a little bit better. And get a better wipeout breaking ball for strikeouts. But so I always kind of, always intrigues me when I hear about, people saying, well, I got to get to AA, or even as a coach, they're in college and they want to come out of the chute and go to a high level. And I'm like, man, you don't know what this is all about. You're gaining a lot of, power with little experience, and it's not that easy. You got to surround yourself with good people.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking last time I saw you was in Anaheim at the Angel Stadium, and we were talking about kind of analytics and how people were saying oh, this pitcher should throw this pitch more often. And I remember you saying something very specific about that, saying well, he needs the confidence to throw that pitch as well, and to actually make that pitch effective, but the analytics say that he should be pitching this more. How does analytics play into what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Analytics is a huge part of what I do and what I think everybody around baseball is doing, because it gives you instant feedback. And it also, there's some predictive models out there of what we can do. For me, I don't necessarily would say, hey, throw this pitch more just to throw it. Just because it's all baked in or the sample size says to throw it more. I would say, throw this pitch more in the opportunities that you're supposed to be throwing it. An example would be, you just keep throwing your breaking ball just because the data says he should throw more breaking balls. Well, once you start compromising the count, and now you're throwing more breaking balls just to throw more, you're going to have to throw more inside the strike zone on those certain counts. And those balls that are hangers inside the strike zone become, homers outside the strike zone. A breaking ball in the strike zone isn't really necessarily a good breaking ball. I mean, you got to have an exceptional breaking ball to throw it in the strike zone. So more guys throw it in the zone than out of the zone and create chase. Well, if I'm behind in the count and I got an average to a plus breaking ball, that it's my best pitch, but it's not the best pitch for the league or the hitter, and you're asking me to throw it more, now I got to throw that thing inside the strike zone. That's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion, to throw hanging breaking balls on a consistent basis inside the strike zone. So, when I'm looking at data, I want to know, okay, when do I throw it more in the opportunities that I'm supposed to be throwing it? But data gives great feedback, and it doesn't lie. Can you move it a little bit and sway it one way or another? Like I always say, 2 + 2 is 4. 2 × 2 is 4. 6 - 2 is 4. 4 goes into 16 4 times. So you can kind of manipulate how you want some numbers to go sometimes and change the narrative. But in reality, the numbers are just giving us a way to make more educated decisions.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and it can get so vast. We have a guy on our show named Cowboy Jack Durango, and he's basically a noob when it comes to learning about baseball and just in general. And he comes in with just such a fresh knowledge and asking interesting questions. I remember that he had some questions about batters diving into pitches and some other things. What were some of the questions that he had?
Well, the one he's like, because this is new. He's like, can he asked me if you can explain what it means for a batter to dive at the plate. He's watched some videos, but he still doesn't get a full concept on that. And as a pitcher, I mean, I don't know what your take would be on something like that.
Well, diving, we call divers when they're moving too much into the action, too much into home plate. They start neutral, and we always taught start neutral, step towards the pitcher. These guys are stepping in towards the plate a little bit more, getting their bodies out over and maybe trying to hit the outside pitch a little bit more. So, that's one thing we look at as well, through video and high-tech video. You're looking at divers, guys, hips actions. Are they moving closer to the plate into swing? And can I throw more pitches inside, or can I throw more pitches up? So now that you're getting, swing approach, vertical approach angle on swings, and you're getting launch angles on hitters, now you can, kind of change the data a little bit, or what part of the plate you really want to go to and why.
I love that you can do that nowadays, because I mean, for all of us, we all grew up in the 70s and 80s. It's like we got one game a week sometimes. Now we can, every single game is just there and just analyze it, to almost overanalyze it sometimes.
Yeah. That's the tough thing about technology and data, in my opinion, is these young pitchers, they all want to be good, right? Or they want to be great. Which that's great. But when you're trying to worry about spin rate and horizontal movement and vertical approach angle, and you can't throw strikes, and you haven't locked down the ability to throw it over the white thing, whether it's above the zone or below the zone and in the zone, which is important, then all the other stuff doesn't matter anymore. I can't have a guy throw a 2600 fastball off the backstop and we call this good. I know the margin of error isn't much, but that's just not going to happen. Results matter. If you look at the end of the day, results are going to matter. How many innings do you pitch? How many hits how many runs do you give up? How many walks, how many strikeouts? All these things matter. And, we've created a lot of new statistics, which is fine, which is great. But if you look at earned run average and you look at FIP, a lot of the top 30 are the same guys. They're just kind of mixed around a little bit. What it does do is it gives a better value of a guy whose ERA may not be as good. Maybe he's unlucky that year. Maybe the fielders aren't playing in the right positions for him. So, FIP, pitching, fielding independence, but more so that's balls over the fence and walks what the pitcher can control. But if you're looking at what the pitcher can control and he's controlling something good in his FIP, but his ERA isn't very good, that can be a reflection on defense as well. So you have a lot of numbers that you can play with, like I said earlier, and manipulate and move around and determine what's good or bad. For me, if I like a player, I like and his numbers aren't good, I'll find something to state my case. I mean, that's what we all do in this world. If we like something enough, we're gonna find something we like about him. And find something that we could either fix or help them with. If we don't like a player, we'll show the numbers where, hey, this is what we don't like. And then the other side will say, well, this is what I do like. And then you go with it. So, data and technology is important, but it'll never replace the game being played on the field. It's kind of the same, the same game. You're trying to get 3 outs, and pitching is disruption of timing. That's not going to change, and location and being able to go in the zone when you want to go outside the zone, hopefully get a chase when you want to. The principles of the game, no matter what the data tell you, they don't change. I mean, Mike might remember this, but like when I was in the 8th grade at Shea Middle School, my dad, every time I got to 2 strikes, would yell, give him the dreaded high hard one. And that's the elevated fastball. And everybody thinks nowadays, since we quantify the elevated fastball, that we never threw it. I mean, I threw it ahead in the count all the time, weighted baseballs. I used to throw balls in my swimming pool and go down and pick it up. And this is in the 7th grade, and we'd play catch with a heavy baseball. So, just because we got technology and data doesn't mean we didn't have it before.
Right. That's a really great point. And it's funny as we get older that, we seem to be in the dark ages of all this stuff. And, but a lot of it's going back to it. Like, I remember somebody, we're talking about just keeping score. Like people don't even know how to keep score anymore in a baseball game. It's like that. It's so foreign to them. And it's like when you do those types of things, you learn about the game and how, you would see people 3 and 4 times. And that because you see what they did times before and really investing themselves in the game. I was talking about modern baseball, and Kevin brought up about like the game of the week. And even though that there's a lot of baseball available, it actually here in Los Angeles is a perfect example. You can live in Los Angeles, but you can't get the home games. You have to be on a certain cable service to get the Angels and Dodgers. You can't get the home package. I actually can watch more away games than anything Dodgers. I just happen to be lucky and have the cable service here. How do you feel that about the current crop of players that are young now? They don't see a lot of the players now unless they have these packages and watch the game to imitate some of the people. Like that's what I used to love, is imitating. I could do the Joe Morgan, little twitch and Willie Stargell. I knew how he batted and who are some other ones like Sheffield and stuff like that. Imitating players. Yeah, that doesn't really. Does that happen anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. I think imitation is a good thing at times. Obviously, you want everybody to be their own individual how they move, but all those hitters have one thing in common. At foot strike, they're in a good position to swing the bat. They have a great approach. But like you said, as a kid, man, I lived in Maryland until I was 10 years old before we moved out to Arizona. And, I was Scott McGregor all the time. I was Mike Flanagan all the time. I got to meet Ken Singleton, who was the Yankees, one of the Yankees announcers a few years ago. And he was one of my idols, one of the guys that I loved when I was a kid growing up. And I told him, I said, you know what? I think I got more at bats as Ken Singleton got at Ken Singleton, because every day in the backyard for a year, every day, and I wasn't getting 4 at bats a game or a day. We were getting 20 at bats a day playing wiffle ball or playing something. So,
Right.
He got a chuckle out of it. Like, hey, I'm getting a lot of at bats as you. And, I do think, the Saturday day game, with all the baseball package in the network, for me, I really don't know what's on at the game of the week every now and then. We might be out in Oakland, or we might be somewhere and someone says, hey, we're the game of the week on Fox. And I'll be like, no, I didn't know that, because, all the games are being televised. So,
Right.
You just don't know, being blacked out in your market in Los Angeles. Well, they want people coming to the yard, they want, people to come watch the game at the stadium. And I would think maybe they don't lift the block out if it's a sellout, or
It's really odd out here, and I feel like they've lost a generation of just kids just kind of happening to pass by it and watch it. And, everything is a lot more accessible now, like, or distracting, I would say, video games and movies and other TV. It's like, I remember, like Kevin and I say growing up, I mean, like we couldn't wait to see all these ball players, and they were like bigger than life.
And then I was spoiled too, because I live right by Angel Stadium. So I actually had season tickets for 2 years in 83, 84. So I literally was going to school, taking my homework with me, doing homework at the ballpark for a couple of years. And it's just like, that's going to make you love baseball for life, in that period.
Do you remember when out on the West Coast, Monday Night Baseball was on record? Wasn't live?
Yes, in fact, we were just talking about that with we had a younger guy on, and we were talking about Monday Night Baseball, and he goes, "Isn't it Monday Night Football?" I go, "No, they had baseball on." And I remember like I think Howard Cosell and it was like this, almost kind of like the same team.
Yeah, Al Michaels
Right.
would do it. NBC I think had Tony Kubek and Bob
Right.
Costas. What great iconic voices those were.
Oh, yeah.
Listening to the game. But one time, my brother bet me $1 there'd be a wild pitch, and I actually bet him because I didn't know. And sure enough, the guy throws it to the backstop, and like a couple of days later, he told me, "Yeah, I saw the highlights 10 minutes before that." Dirty dog.
That is awesome. Oh, that's such a that definitely ages us right there. Like the fact everything is like in real time now.
Yeah, because I remember even hearing, and I didn't know this till later, like the NBA finals used to be on delay in like the late 70s, early 80s. It's like, I couldn't even imagine that nowadays. Because Scott, the other thing we talked about, the Dodgers being blacked out on that same, it's called Spectrum Cable, I think. And so they're the exclusive home of the Lakers and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So people were in an uproar because not everyone could get that Spectrum service in the LA area. So they're missing out on the Lakers and the Dodgers, which is, the two biggest teams in the LA market. Well,
do they get blacked out when they're on TNT?
I got to think about that. I haven't. I know there was points where it was. 'Cause I remember seeing people complain about it, but I honestly don't have TNT, so I don't know nowadays.
If they're blacked out on TNT, no biggie. You get to watch Tombstone for the 15th.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
The one thing, like ESPN, for me, I don't know how this is statistically wise or whatever, but ESPN brought sports to your house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if ESPN, next thing you know, the entire sports program network has something going on every day. I remember when ESPN only had like one Sports Center show or maybe two Sports Center shows. Now they got it throughout the day, but they brought us college basketball more. Then they started bringing us baseball. Then we had hockey. I mean, they brought, in my opinion, sports to your living room, and then all these other channels started branching off. And if it wasn't for ESPN at the time, maybe there wouldn't be as much sports on television.
That's a good point.
And it used to be in the 80s, ESPN didn't even have much. Those boys are going, I don't need to watch this sport or whatever. And then next thing you know, like, you're like, it would have been around the early 90s, I think, when they got at baseball, and that definitely changed things for sure. And then you had locally here. I don't know, did you guys have prime ticket in Arizona? Because I know that was like the West Coast.
It was actually there was ASPN, Arizona Sports Programming Network. They had prime ticket things on there. That's how we got.
Now that's what it is now, and I think it's Bally out here for the Angel. I think the A's too. I think there's like a Bally Sports area or something like that. I believe where they.
We have NBC Sports.
NBC. Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, the Arizona sports program now is you could watch a game and feel like you were watching it on a camcorder. Remember that? They would try to get. They would really try to get, which was fine with me at the time, but the production wasn't as good yet. You know, that network kind of fell down, but it was always good to see Arizona sports. On TV, no matter what. They showed some Phoenix Firebirds games.
Yes,
they even had a couple Suns games on that channel.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And actually, what they did was, okay, so now that I'm thinking back about it, they did have prime ticket on there. They actually had the sports channel out of Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
They would have those cable networks through there. ESPN did have Suns games, but it was on a delay. And I remember I videotaped this. I have a Houston Rockets a Phoenix Suns fight. Sleepy Floyd just took both hands and pushed Jeff Hornacek in the face. I still have it on tape, and it was like a big brawl. And but that was right before it was like late 80s. Yeah. And so that you're right. You're absolutely right about that.
Eric Sleepy Floyd from Georgetown.
No, wow. There you go.
That's where he went to school.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
he played in the national championship game, right? When
trying to think who that was.
Who was it?
Was it Ewing or is it after Ewing? I'm trying to remember. I was like,
I want to say he was with Ewing. Somebody might have thrown the ball away. I can't remember offhand.
I'm like, when you said, I'm just hearing that. I hadn't heard the name Sleepy Floyd in quite a while.
I was Eric Sleepy Floyd a couple times playing Nerf hoop downstairs.
There you go, right on.
Awesome, great.
Well, I was right with Maryland for sure because you're right there by Georgetown. Absolutely.
I'd throw it off the wall, and then when I catched it off the wall, I'd be Patrick Ewing dunking it. I was Rob Sampson. I was Len Bias. I was Albert King, Buck Williams, Adrian Branch was one of my guys, left-handed sweet jump shot. Those Maryland Terps were my guys back in the day. That's the basketball team I watched growing up until we moved out to Arizona.
Yeah, well,
and then ASU wasn't as good as Maryland.
That's right.
I was gonna say you're probably not gonna be much of a Washington Bullets fan. There wasn't really much to root for besides like a Bernard King or something like that.
Wes Unseld and his rebounds.
There you go.
Right. All right, Scott. I'm gonna ask you the question that I want you to clear the air on this. This is from your early playing days in baseball. Did you give up one of Michael Jordan's first professional hits?
Well, a hit that counts goes on the back of your bubblegum card, right? So I could say no, but what happened was Jordan was in Major League camp. And he got sent to minor league camp that day. And I just happened to be pitching against the White Sox minor leaguers. And yes, I gave up a hit to Michael Jordan on a 3-2 fastball. Yes, I struck out Michael Jordan the next time up. Yes, I had a nice press conference after the game of felt like 3,000 people. What the crazy part of the story was, he gets sent out. He was actually going to Double-A, but we were playing an A-ball game against their A-ball team at their complex, which was behind their stadium. So they didn't want Jordan to go on the road with the Double-A team because of, security reasons and all that stuff. So they had him just play in an A-ball game. And you could see and feel the fans migrating from the major league game over to the minor league game just to watch Michael Jordan. So there was, I say 3,000 people. I don't know. It could have been 500 or 400, but they started just packing this small field with people just started coming out to watch him play. He was pretty. I always, everybody knows this. I always said in the off season, I always kind of anticipated it. I really did, and I was telling guys, man, I got a chance to face Michael Jordan, and I'm gonna drill him in the rib cage. And, that was just me talking to the boys,
Yeah.
But when he got in that box and you started seeing, kind of understanding what this guy wanted to do and wanted to accomplish, it was pretty awesome. I did throw him all fastballs his first at bat. So just to kind of get that clarified, but he's the greatest athlete. He's the GOAT, man. I mean, he's the greatest athlete ever. The guy played professional baseball, maybe not the major leagues, but he played professional baseball. The guy played, at the NBA at the highest level, and in my opinion, is the greatest basketball player of all time. It could be argued for, but okay, the guy played professional baseball. He played in the NBA, and this dude's a pretty good golfer. So I think this dude's a pretty good athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I saw recently was like Deion Sanders was just saying like baseball is the hardest thing I've ever done, like for Netflix. And this is coming from a guy who had a heck of a career as a football player and a baseball player.
Yeah, he said football was easiest.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And so like what was the media circus? So where was that at? What stadium was that at?
It was at Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota, Florida, behind the stadium on one of the auxiliary fields. So
wow. So is it just bleachers, like old school bleachers, if even that?
Dude, it might be like one set of bleachers behind the plate, and then it's standing room only down the line. I can't remember the article, but there's an article out there. I want to say maybe it was the Boston Globe, where the writer said the guy on the mound was all-state. The guy at the plate was all-world, all-state basketball player, and Scott Emerson facing an all-world basketball player on a different stage on a baseball field. I think that's he called me a redhead, so that's all right. But there is an article out there about it, and that was kind of the heading of it: all-state versus all-world. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I didn't know you were that good of a basketball player. Were you actually considering maybe going that direction if baseball didn't work out, or?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I talked to some colleges about basketball. Mm-hmm. I kind of maybe shut it down a little bit halfway through my senior year in December about basketball. Kind of made it known I was going to go play baseball. I had a great inkling that I was going to get drafted. But when I when I hurt my elbow, that's when I really started thinking, all right, now I might have to transition a little bit to basketball. And, it was, my passion and my love was baseball, playing it. I still love basketball. I watch basketball as much as I can. Like I said, I'm going to the Carolina Forest game tonight, so that's going to be great. But, I felt like, I was, but I'm 6'5", 6'6", in that range. And I could play point guard. I could play two guard. That's what I played a lot. And then sometimes I would play small forward if I was on some teams that had a point guard. But, played against a lot of great teams in the summertime. New York Riverside Church, the Los Angeles Watts Magicians. I remember playing a summer ball game where we're playing against the Los Angeles Watts Magicians, and we couldn't even warm up because they had guys going under their leg and doing the dunks in warm-ups then, and we're like, isn't this 18 and under? And these guys are flying. The New York Riverside Church, I had a good game against Riverside Church in the summertime, but I took a charge with like 3 minutes to go, and we're down like 35. And all I could hear is my dad yelling from the stands, "Hey, you idiot, you got to pitch tonight." So, I played a summer league basketball game in the morning, and I'm taking a charge down 30. So I think that was at South Mountain Community College. So it was called BCI, Basketball Congress International. And they brought in a lot of good basketball players into Arizona in the summer times to play in a lot of tournaments. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, basketball, I always look back because I remember at Shadow Mountain, like some people would say, oh man, you're going to be an NBA player, blah, 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 blah. And, I was probably a step too slow. I had a nice shot and I love to pass the rock, but, sometimes I go back and think, hey, you know what? Maybe if I got a little bit bigger and stronger, I could have turned the corner a little bit better and taken my game to a whole nother level. D1 basketball wouldn't have been a problem for me. I played against some of the best high school players in the world at the time. I would have had no problem in that. I may never have been a starter, but I'd have put the sweats on for sure.
Yeah, because I'm saying, I remember you're comparing, single A ball, double A. I'm like, who are you going from, high school to Division I? And obviously, Arizona is a powerhouse, and Arizona State sometimes, but I imagine it gets pretty competitive down there because of those schools. I wanted to ask, so Scott, you said you're on the East Coast, so I know how soon are you going to Arizona? I imagine it's got to be a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, I'm probably going to I try to get out there a week early before spring training. Our first workout's February 15th. So I get out there a little week early and kind of, hang around the guys in some shorts and a t-shirt for a while. And the toughest part, about not being able to be with players in the off season is, everybody's, trying to find that new thing. That's something that can get them over the hump. And it always scares me to do it during the season, because what if we do something and we get you worse? So I'm always nervous about that. So there are some players that live close to me in North Carolina that I've been able to, over the years I go see, and, Cole Irvin, who had an unbelievable year last year for us and the year before. He lives here in North Carolina. We plan to meet next week when he starts his bullpens. So that's going to be fun to go out and hang out with him. But, it's a lot of texting and a lot of calling guys. And, our guys are going to start getting off the bump here next week. And, send me some video. Let's chat about it. What are we really trying to do? Because like I said, everybody's trying to get better. So when they go somewhere else to work out, you really don't know 100% exactly. They may tell you they're doing one thing, but now they're working on something different. And then if they got a coach that they work with in the off season, which is fine, and that coach doesn't see the same things that we see as an organization, I think it can be a setback for players. So it's just trying to, stay in that communication of, hey, what are you doing? What are you trying to accomplish? At the end of the day, like I said earlier, I'm that drop down in their toolbar, and I'm not pitching it. They're pitching it. And you said earlier about, Kevin, you said about confidence. A guy gets up there and what's his confidence level? And sometimes, you're trying to, you could tell a player, hey, do this, and they do it really well. And they do it really well for like 5 games. And that player will come back to you and say, I just don't feel good about it. And you could be scratching your head going, geez, you just went 6 scoreless innings and you don't like this. What ends up happening is it gets into their mental mindset that they don't like it. Even though they're performing right now, they don't like it. And then down the road, they're backing up bases again. And now all of a sudden they go back to what feels good. So I think you have to listen to players and understand, even our analysts, trying to get them to understand, a guy likes to throw a 2-seamer because he feels the grip feels better, even though the data doesn't show that the ball is moving good. But for him, it feels better. So there's a lot of give and take and a lot of communication between myself, the pitcher, and our analysts about, I understand what you would like us to try to do with this player, but he doesn't feel comfortable with it. And out there, if you don't feel comfortable and you make that one mistake, that can cost you a ball game.
Before we sign off, I wanted you to talk about how long have you been the pitching coach for the A's, and what was it like to work with Bob Melvin?
Oh man, Bo Mel is awesome. I mean, I've been in the big leagues since 15 been coaching since 2020. So, I spent a lot of time with Bo Mel, and he's unbelievable. He's just smart, and he is ahead of the game. And he studies his craft. He studies his opponent. He studies the data. He studies the manager. And I think that kind of, upped our coaching staff's, what we do each and every day. And Mark Kotze, our new manager, I think he's great also. And they're different personalities, but they both put in the time to study the opponent, and not just the opponent, but the manager. What are managers' tendencies to do? Is he pulling the trigger early or is he not? And obviously we get a lot of data from our front office about when they're stealing and what counts they steal on, and I mean, you name it, we got the data. I'm telling you name it. Talking earlier about too much data. Sometimes there's just you got to go play, right? But what you have is you have a big data set, right? And then you're pulling the data that you value. So there's things that I get each in gyro degrees of a baseball. I really don't care about the gyro degrees of the baseball at this present time, unless if the guy can have good spin efficiency, he stays behind the baseball when he's supposed to, or he can get his slider to move and all that stuff, then I don't really need to look at gyro degrees. But if a guy can do something really, really well and that gyro degrees comes into play, then I'll look at it. But I know one thing: if you command a baseball, that pitch is going to show up really good analytically, no matter what. You throw an elevated fastball. I don't care what the spin rate is. I don't care what the velocity is. If you stay at the top third of the strike zone and you can stick it there, it's probably going to be a good pitch. Now, if you're going to throw it there and your ball has too much vertical drop to it, and that's the way you pronate or you throw it, and it drops too much and you can't leave it at the top third, then we got to find a way to help you to leave it at the top third. So the data is great, but Bo Mel, circle back. I mean, I love the guy. He's very smart. He's very passionate about knowing his next move.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time today. This has been a total pleasure, not only catching up with you because we have a special connection, but for what we're doing. It's such a pleasure to have you on and add to our show and give us all of this great knowledge. I look forward to connecting with you. I have to chase you down because you are on the move all the time, and I'll be traveling around. So hopefully we can cross paths, and I would love to catch up with you some more.
Well, I'll send you my number. So
awesome.
Anything you guys need, you let me know.
Oh, you're the best.
Oh, I was going to say thank you. Taking the time out of the morning in January when you're about to, have some fun tonight, checking out some college hoops. That's going to be a good time. And
be a good time.
I'm an Angels fan. I will also wish the Athletics a good 2023 season.
I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. This is the Baseball Brew Crew interview series with Scott Emerson. For Kevin Lyon, I'm Michael Mondragon, and we'll see you next time.